Hi folks, how you doing? This is Iqbal with NVIDIA Daily Analysis. So NVIDIA went up about 4.5% today. So as I expected yesterday that either today or on Monday there should be some recovery on NVIDIA. So that's what happened today. In this video, let's do some analysis how NVIDIA can behave next week before earnings using technical charts, historical data analysis, and economic data. Let's get started. Starting with the daily summary, Nvidia opened at 125.86. It made a high 129.60. It made a low 125.22 and it closed at 129.37. That is 4.55% up. So Nvidia did some recovery from yesterday and day before yesterday drop, as I expected. And for next week, Nvidia still has some room go further up. We'll take a deep dive in a bit. Moving on, last 5 days, Nvidia still up 4.10%. Last 1 month, Nvidia up 5.53%. And last 6 months, Nvidia up 64.13%. And one of the reasons for today's Nvidia upside is positive remarks or comments from Mr. Powell. Let's take a look. He made his speech this morning and he was positive that Fed should start doing the rate cut from September. So you see some news here. It says the time has come for interest rate cuts, and also in here that says Powell's speech highlights rate cut news, jobs, and inflation talk. And if you take another headline that says stock rise as Fed Chair Powell signals rate cuts, and another one that says Mr. Powell says Fed to soon begin reducing interest rate. So these are all good news for Nvidia and overall market. And if you remember yesterday, I told you guys that Mr. Powell will not say anything negative about the economy today. So that's why I thought Mr. Powell's speech should not negatively impact the market today. So the overall market was up, not just Nvidia. S&P was up 1.15%, Nasdaq up 1.47%, and Dow Jones up 1.14%. And regarding my stocks, I did not sell my stocks yet. I still have Nvidia shares bought around 120 and 126 few weeks ago, and I'm still watching the situation. Probably early next week, if Nvidia goes up further, maybe that will be a good time to sell the stocks before earnings. But I'm not 100% positive. Will depend how Nvidia behaves on Monday. Now let's take a look forward P for Nvidia and other AI stocks. Nvidia forward P at this point is at 45.20, higher than the last week closing, and also higher than the last 8 weeks of average. So now it's getting closer to the forward P of 50, and that is my borderline. I'm not expecting Nvidia to go above 50 forward PE before the earnings. Palantir is at 93.47, slightly lower than the last week closing. SMCI also lower than the last week closing, at this point 19.30 versus last week closing 19.79. AMD 43.28 at this point versus last week 41.51. So AMD forward P also went up. And still I have the same opinion about Nvidia price range before the earnings. I'm not expecting Nvidia to go above 140 before the earnings. We have 3 more days to go. And also in the lower side, I'm not expecting Nvidia to go below 114.5. In other words, 115. Now let's take a look historical data analysis for Nvidia. You see cumulative percentage change for Nvidia for this quarter on your screen. At this point, Nvidia is up about 35% from the previous earnings announcement date. The last quarter, as we noted yesterday, that the cumulative percentage change was 38% from the previous earnings announcement date. That was 22nd February. So it's still probably about 2 or 3% room for Nvidia to go further up before earnings based on quarterly cumulative percentage change data analysis. Now let's take a look weekly percentage change for Nvidia in a candlestick chart. If you remember last time we looked at this chart was on Friday last week. So at the end of each week I go over this chart with you to understand how the week has ended compared with the previous weeks. So this week ended positive. You see the green candlestick. So last 3 weeks in a row, positive ending. And before that, you see negative closing 3 weeks in a row. So and also last week I mentioned that this week will also close as positive ending week. So that assessment was right. So we see that positive closing. And the next week would depend on the earnings and the sales data on the earnings call. But most likely, Nvidia should be able to beat the earnings, and the next week also should close as positive ending week. Now, let's take a look at MACD chart. You see 90-day hourly interval chart for Nvidia and also MACD chart. So as we noted yesterday, MACD line was below zero line and we had some negative momentum, and I had a comment yesterday that the negative momentum does not look too strong. And also we can see some recovery today or Monday. So we saw some recovery today, and for Monday you see that the positive momentum has started from today. MACD line is above zero line. So most likely Nvidia should end positive on Monday as well. Now let's take a look at Fibonacci levels. So based on the Fibonacci levels, the next level of resistance is at 140.56, and also that is all-time high. So based on the Fibonacci level, I'm not expecting Nvidia to go above 140.5 before the earnings. And at the lower side, the next level of resistance is at 115. So most likely on Monday and Tuesday, Nvidia should move between 125 and 140. Now let's take a look Bollinger Bands. As we noted yesterday, the gap between the upper band and the lower band was expanding. As you noted here, let me make it bigger. You see, the gap started opening since yesterday. It was not the case before yesterday. So again today we see the gap started expanding further. So that gives the signal that Monday also we can see the positive momentum on Nvidia. And if you remember yesterday I made another comment regarding Bollinger Bands. You see that Nvidia stock was touching the lower band yesterday. So that gave a signal that there should be some recovery today. So that's what happened today. Now let's take a look some news regarding Nvidia. So let's take a look this one, the very first one that says can Nvidia's stock hit a high after earnings? Options market says it's unlikely. So this analysis suggests that after earnings Nvidia may not go too high. And this one that says US markets briefing Powell lifts markets with rate cut hopes. So as we discussed already in the beginning of the video that Mr. Paul made some good positive remarks today. So Wedbush raises the price target for Nvidia from 120 to 138. So since yesterday, this was probably the fourth price target increase from different analysts. So that's a good thing for Nvidia. And another analysis from Wedbush that says Nvidia expected to outperform Q2 performed well in Q3 on server data center demand. I kind of agree with that because the sales outlook looks very strong for overall AI sector, so no problem there. But the only concern I had was on the earnings surprise percentage. May not be as high as we saw last quarter, in my opinion. Another price target increase for Nvidia that is from Evercore. Evercore ISI adjusts price target on Nvidia to 150 from 145. So looks like most of the analysts are bullish on Nvidia after earnings. So I guess that's all about news regarding Nvidia. Let's take a look other AI stocks. As you see on your screen, almost all the AI stocks are positive today on my watch list. The highest positive change is on Nvidia, that is 4.55%. The only negative closing is on Palantir, that is 0.44% down. And regarding economic data, as we saw yesterday, not much data is expected next week Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, we have weekly initial jobless claim, that is important. And also Friday, we have the PC index or the inflation data, and that is important. So for next week, the major event is NVIDIA earnings. So no other economic data is due before that. I guess that's all about NVIDIA analysis and assessment for today and early next week. I hope you liked the video. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you more tomorrow. Take care.